Fandoms Anonymous.
What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of Fandom Talk. This is episode 3. Today we're talking about the DC Extended Universe and how to fix it. We kind of have a father to son conversation to DC. So join me, Kevin, and Jeremy as we break down the DC Extended Universe and what's wrong with it.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Fandom Talk. This is Fandoms Anonymous. I got some awesome guys on the podcast with me this morning. We're talking today about what's going on over there at DC. You know, we try to stay away from DC because I know I do, because sometimes it can seem like, you know, we're just bashing DC and bashing DC and bashing DC. But I think we need to have one of those father-to-son conversations, or as my mom used to say, a come-to-Jesus meeting about DC this morning. I got my main man, Kevin Garlington, on the line. What's going on, Kevin? Introduce yourself.
Hey, good morning. I'm here and ready to talk about this foolishness.
And I also got my man, Jeremy Branch from Be Terrible Productions out of the great Pensacola, Florida. What's going on, Jeremy?
Not a lot. I'm happy to be on the show, and I know I'm going to be seeing you guys from the 17th to the 19th here at Pensacon in Pensacola, Florida. So we're going to do it big out there, and, yeah, I look forward to getting into these crazy topics that we have going on today.
Most definitely. Pensacon is coming up. I am literally 17 days away from meeting Jason David Frank. So I think that's what it's all about. I can meet Jason David Frank and go back home. So right. I'm excited. Pensacon is coming. So, guys, if you haven't gotten your tickets already, check out Pensacon. But let's get started right here. And there's so much to talk about DC. And it's just a forever whirlwind of a circus of what's going on. But Kevin made a big point this morning to let's first separate DC from Warner Brothers, because DC was a comic book, and Warner Brothers was making television at the same time, I believe. And somehow they came together over a period of time. So, Kevin, what is your qualm on separating DC from Warner Brothers?
Well, let's back up a little bit, and I'll give a little bit of history here. Most people know that, and if you listen to this show, I assume you know this, that, you know, there are different rights to different comic book characters, whereas Fox has the X-Men and all the mutants, you know, and I'm just going to kind of make some clear lines here. There's some gray area, but we'll stay out of that gray area today. Where Marvel has, you know, the Avengers and, you know, Captain America and everything. And then Sony has Spider-Man. And then they have that joint deal with Marvel where they're producing the movies, but it's still, you know, the movie rights, you know, for Spider-Man belong at Sony. Well, the beautiful thing about the Warner Brothers DC relationship is they have 100% access to all the characters. That is right. So from the 89 Batman movie until now, they have had all the characters they needed. Actually, go back to the first Superman movie, but we'll just say 89 Batman for a lot of people here. They have all the characters. So the fact that you've only seen Superman and Batman and was just now getting Wonder Woman and getting, you know, maybe in Green Lantern and whatnot, to me is kind of a crime. So what it looks like for Warner Brothers, and I'll wrap it up right here for this one question, is they have had all the DC universe for all this time. They don't know what to do with it. They've had it for years. They don't have the same problem that Marvel has. If DC wants to put Batman, Etrigan, you know, Zatanna, and Swamp Thing in a movie, they can do it, and they don't have to ask the rights to anybody or pay anyone else. Marvel, on the other hand, they want to put Professor X with Spider-Man, with such and such, with whoever. They got a lot of work to do. So I want to be clear on that. So when we're talking about this and going back and forth on this subject, keep in mind, out of all the stories that they made, they could have put any DC character in it. So I'll back off there and pass the mic.
And it's funny that you say that they have all the rights, because we're just getting a lot of these live-action movies and hints and rumors of live-action movies from DC. But when we look at the animated series, why is it that there's a problem with the live-action and not with the animated series? Jeremy, I don't know if you've seen the most recent one, Justice League Dark, but what do you think about that difference? Like, what's wrong with why? It feels like to me the animated series people need to swap places. Well, no, they just need to take over everything. What do you think about that difference? The animated series looks like they just do it all, and live action looks like they're just struggling.
Absolutely, and you guys both bring up really valid points. What Kevin said about differentiating Warner Brothers from DC Comics, I think, is the thing that we do need to just drive home over and over again. 2009 is when DC Entertainment was founded. DC comic books go all the way back to 1934. So you guys are right when you say there is a lot of history and a lot of lore that you really could explore. In my personal opinion, and to touch on what you just asked, Malcolm, I feel like making movies is hard, y'all. Like, I think everybody sets out to make a good movie, So I feel like it's easier to accept a full slate of superheroes being tossed in together into an animated movie or into an animated show. I haven't seen, the Justice League Dark, but everything leads me to believe that it's a solid production. I know The Killing Joke was a little more divisive, but then the Suicide Squad animated Assault on Arkham, is that what it was?
Yes,
right.
That one was really good, to the point that a lot of people said they should have just adapted that to the live-action movie. So I got so many thoughts on this. But, ultimately to the question that you asked, I just feel like it's hard to make a good movie, and I feel like DC is, in a lot of ways, trying to catch up, And
when you say the word catch up, I've always felt like they've been trying to catch up with Marvel, but I'm the person where I personally feel like there's no need to catch up. Just as Marvel started out and have taken their time over the last almost 10 years, do the same thing. Slow down. Don't try. You don't have to, put everything out so fast. And like I said, we don't want this to be a bash, and we want this to be like an ode to Warner Brothers, ode to DC, the DCEU. Let it just saying, hey, we believe in you. Just make something quality. Like I said, when I watched Justice League Dark, it was awesome. From the first 3 minutes of Justice League Dark, the animated cartoon, was awesome. But then we take a look, we flip the page over, and we go to TV. Now we touch the animated, we go to TV.
Mm-hmm.
I am lured into DC TV week after week after week. I know I was up last night. My wife rolled over like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Watching The Flash." And it was 1 a.m. I don't have to go to work today, so this is my time to catch up on my TV shows. I was watching The Flash because that universe right there in itself is amazing. I know it took me a while to get Kevin to get into some of these DC TV shows, and he looks at them bit by bit. But for the most part, for what he has watched, he was able to come back and say he enjoyed what he watched. He's still a little iffy about the whole soap opera aspect of The Flash. Kevin, his favorite. I know, Kevin, your favorite line is, "Why does everybody have to have a pep talk?" on The Flash. Right. Everybody has to have a pep talk. But what do you guys think about the fact that the DC TV universe is just expanding?
I'll jump in there first on this one. Let me say this. And Malcolm is right, to give a little backstory. Look, man, I'm not a huge fan of the DC TV shows, but as a whole, they're just not my cup of tea. But at the end of the day, my favorite one is The Flash. I keep up with The Flash, and I let a few episodes go by, and I watch them in the weekend. I'll maybe watch 4 or 5, whatever, and catch up. The thing with those shows is that they have captured something that nobody else has really been able to do, and that's the heart of the DC universe. There's a lot of heart that's in those shows that connects with a lot of people. So while I may not be the biggest fan, I respect their fandom, and I respect their right to be there and the way they're telling the stories. What happens is when you have a 22 or 26 episode season, you can dive into things that you can't just dive into in a 2 to 2.5 hour movie.
That's right.
you get a chance to, because if you look at Marvel, and we'll say, okay, they're what, 12, 13 movies in. Essentially, Marvel has produced like a season of TV. If you look at their movies, look at the evolution of the characters, and then look at maybe a season of the Flash. Look at season 1. Look at where you start, and then look at where you end. So essentially, Marvel is taking that long view, albeit over a couple years, hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever. But they've created this thing now where you're locked in with these characters, you know who they are, and you're ready to roll when you hit one of these movies. Same thing with a TV show. By the time you get to the end of season 1 or in midway through season 2 or whatever, you're locked in and you're moving forward. The problem with this is Andrew Kreisberg actually wrote the script for that Green Lantern movie where Ryan Reynolds was in, that everybody just crapped all over, which if rightfully so, but again, so you've had a little bit of that TV bleed over, and it did not go well. And while Andrew Kreisberg and his whole team and those guys have put together a great TV thing, he may not be the guy to fix this in the movies, because he tells those long stories that, go over, 22 to 26 hours of television. So that's kind of why maybe the TV and the movie thing really hadn't worked out, because they kind of went there and it didn't work. So.
Yeah, I agree. I know this is going to sound boring, but I echo a lot of what Kevin said. I actually didn't know that the gentleman that's been kind of overseeing the television universe is the same guy that wrote Green Lantern, which the movie had a lot of problems, just to be honest about it. And that's why they didn't launch the DCEU with that film, regardless of if they had plans to or not. But I do agree, that's a really fascinating point, that Marvel has basically made serialized movies, right, where DC has been able to take that approach with their television universe, and that's why they've been able to successfully cross over the Flash with Arrow. That's why they've been able to put Supergirl in those shows, is because the investment that has been built with those characters. And it's hard for me to see a movie, and this is kind of off topic, but I feel like Batman works best at street level. I know in the comic books it's not always portrayed that way, but since we got the gritty realism and that really realistic take from Nolan, it almost seems like stepping backwards to see Batman trying to hang with gods, essentially. And that's something that fundamentally I think is going to be hard to make Batman and Batman's solo film work, is because I personally feel like Batman works the best alone, So it's interesting to see that they squished him into what was essentially a Superman sequel. And when Batman and Superman are both brooding and both dark and both, a more modern approach to these characters, it gets harder to differentiate them. It gets harder to get emotionally invested in them because, Zack Snyder's world is very bleak. So it's just moving forward, it seems like it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I agree.
And you made the point about the Batman solo movie, and that takes me to our next point. I feel like that is personally whoever is an executive who's overseeing this division that's doing this Batman movie. I feel like they're the reason that Ben Affleck has stepped down. I said it a long time ago when they first announced Ben Affleck is playing Batman. Everybody said, "Oh, Ben Affleck, oh, ew." I said, "Nope, no. Ben Affleck is a great American actor." I said it just like that.
Absolutely.
And he's going to be an awesome Batman. You're talking about a man who has in his utility belt Oscar nominations, awards out of the wahoo, and hundreds of accolades from his work in the film industry. So take somebody who knows what a film is supposed to be, who knows how a role is supposed to be played. I mean, this man won did he win an Oscar for Good Will Hunting way back when in the 90s?
Yeah, they got it for him, and I think they got it for writing on that movie.
That's exactly right.
For Argo as well.
Right. And he was young back then. And that shows you his premise and his talent even back then. So it's like I feel like there's somebody at fault for why he stepped down. I mean, there's a finger to point. We may not know exactly who that person or group of people are, but I feel like they got in his way. And the type of professional he is, he's like, okay, you know what? I'll just step down. I'll get out your way. But he's still staying on a producing level, but he's no longer writing the script. And I think that's really going to hurt this Batman movie. So what do you guys think about Ben Affleck and the whole Batman situation?
Yeah, I think that you nailed it on the head as far as there being, a finger to point at someone else. A lot of people do point to his acting and point to his directing, but they forget about Good Will Hunting. Like, this guy is no joke. He's no hack. He is in the position that he is because he is a massive talent, and he was the best part of Batman v Superman. I totally feel that. I think he's done really good in the portrayal of him. But it feels like he wanted the creative freedom to make a standalone Batman film. However, the execs at Warner Brothers, they want to be able to tie everything together and put it in a package. And I think that it's probably focus groups. I think that it's probably multiple executives and producers. I think that the whole thing seems like a toxic relationship, like kind of what we were talking about at the beginning. It's like if the relationship's toxic and it's DOA, there's no reason to stay with it. And what's beautiful about the move that Affleck made is now if this Batman movie sucks, he's not responsible for it anymore. Whereas before,
right,
he would have taken the hit, you know?
Yeah.
So
I'm going to jump in there. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, please. I was kind of just wrapping it up. I feel like what would have worked the best is a Batman prequel. So we could have seen him before the whole events of Batman v Superman and kind of see. We don't need to see the death of the Waynes again, but a nice little setup for Batman working the streets, you know?
Yeah. Let's go back a little bit here and talk about Warner Brothers and what's going on over there. Now, if you guys remember a few months ago, there were some announcements about some internal shifting and how they want to streamline how movies get made on the DC side of Warner Brothers, okay? Jeremy, you made a good point earlier. It's like, listen, making movies is hard, okay?
Mm-hmm.
One thing that people don't give Warner Brothers credit for is they're a real live movie studio, okay? The MCU was over there with Marvel with that long arm of Mickey Mouse, Disney, because, that nobody markets anything better than Disney. Nobody has a better marketing arm at all, and I'll go into that in a minute. But when you look at what's going on, Kevin Feige is in charge of Marvel and Marvel only. They have the Star Wars side over there. You know what I mean? So those people in charge of just the Star Wars side. Warner Brothers is still making other movies. Oh, and by the way, they put out Sully last year, and a couple other movies that escaped me. Great films last year. Warner Brothers is a great movie studio, but that's just it. They're a movie studio.
That's a really good point. Don't sleep on Warner Brothers because it's not like they're a failure of a studio.
Right. They're not a failure. They're very lucrative. As a matter of fact, they had more in the top 10 behind Disney than any other studio last year. But that's, like I said, another little podcast. So what happens is this. You put Jeff Johns, everybody was so excited when they said we're going to put Jeff Johns in charge. He's going to be like the Kevin Feige over at DC. When I heard that, that's not exciting to me. Jeff Johns is a great storyteller. Guy's written some phenomenal comics. And I won't even sit here and deny that. He's not a movie guy. You know the reason why Kevin Feige is successful at Marvel? He did 13 adaptations for superhero movies before they started the MCU. He saw what worked and what didn't work. Go back and watch the Daredevil movie. Go back and watch the original Spider-Man. You will see his name in all those credits. Okay? So he was there for the good stuff and for the bad stuff. So when it came time when Disney said, hey, we need a property for little boys, we're going to buy Marvel, he raised his hand and said, I can do it. And he did it. You cannot compare Jeff Johns and Kevin Feige, okay? So we're talking about earlier enough, you said you want to say, hey, let's have a come to Jesus meeting. My first point on how to fix DC is you need to make a legit DC division where the person that's in charge of the movies reports directly to the head of the studio, okay? It's too many hands in the pot over there. It's too many irons in the fire. My second point is this, getting back to Ben Affleck and some of the points Jeremy was making about him and you guys, we all know he's an Oscar, caliber writer, director, actor. across the board. He takes 2 years plus to write his scripts. It's a known fact. Not one of his movies has been pigeonholed for some date so he can meet that date. Live by Night, even though it is a box office failure, it has lost $75 million for Warner Brothers so far, took him 2 years to write, okay? He is a story guy, and it takes him a while to write his stuff, as with anybody else. So what happened was Batman vs. Superman came out. The audience was divided. The movie made a lot of money, but not as much as it should have. Everybody came out of that movie saying, hey, we love Batman. What did Warner Brothers do? Hey, we're going to cancel Justice League 2, because they canceled Justice League 2, by the way, and we're going to move up a Batman movie. Well, you can't do that with an auteur director like Ben Affleck. You can't put him up against the ropes, especially when you already greenlit his other movies with you, other projects he had been working on that he needed to finish. You can't do that. So you want him to write, direct, and produce. For those listeners who might not understand what all that means, he can't just sit in the room and write the script, because as a producer, you got to make sure the sets are built. You got to okay the art. You got to okay the back suit. You got to do this. You got to do that. There are 1,000,001 things he would have to do. And my problem is this. They don't have the infrastructure, or it doesn't seem they have the infrastructure at Warner Brothers on the DC side of the house to make that happen for him. They're a movie studio that's making comic book movies. Marvel is a comic book company that's making movies. Two completely different things. So I'll pass the mic because I'll get along with it. So,
and that last point. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Oh, I was just going to say, that's so spot on. That's so spot on. We saw what happened with David Ayer, who is another stellar filmmaker, and what happens when you get 6 weeks to write a script. Sometimes the script ain't going to be as strong as it could have been, and I just feel like by announcing that slate 10 years ahead of time before they gave us a really solid foundation was to their detriment, because now everybody's expecting, when's The Flash going to come out? When's Batman going to come out? When are we going to get this, even Aquaman movie? And I think that's the if they would have kept it closer to the chest, then the audience wouldn't have these expectations of them.
Yep.
And I think that's the thing that has hurt them more than everything, these false expectations. We were having what we call it at my job yesterday, a huddle. I work for a Sprint call center. And one thing that a lot of customers call in is with false expectations given to them, by other Sprint reps, other Sprint employees at a local Sprint store. And DC has given us a lot of false expectations. Even in their esoterica of conundrum that they have going on over there, they continue to put out information. For example, Aquaman just cast Black Manta. Okay, we got a Black Manta, but are we going to have a script?
Yeah.
And that's what's been happening. Are we going to have a script? Is the movie going to be any good? Yeah, I understand we got somebody to put on a suit and play a role and speak, but are we going to have a script? And that leads me to my next thing. It's like we keep getting information. We keep getting information over and over and over and repeated. Here, we're doing this. We're doing that. We're doing this. It's all, like I said, it's that father to son conversation. Like, son, sit down. You don't have to do all that. Mind your mama and just do what you got to do and go to school and make good grades. And it's like they keep coming out with stuff, keep letting us know they're doing stuff. You don't have to do that. Marvel will hide something for a year.
Mm-hmm.
They will hide something for a year and just bust you in the face with it. Even a lot of these new movies that are coming out. For example, if you all know me, I'm an avid Power Rangers fan. I made that known at the beginning of this conversation. I was waiting on a new Power Rangers trailer. I woke up to a Power Rangers trailer. It wasn't announced to me. It wasn't continued to be like, hey, Power Rangers trailer coming. And, I woke up and I was like, oh, where did this come from? Same thing with a lot of other movies. And Marvel has done that well. You will not know a casting until they're getting ready to start filming. They're getting ready to really start talking, but it's like DC has just opened up everything. The Rock is going to be Black Adam. Bam, we knew that off the gate. Black Adam's not supposed to come out to like 2019, 2020. But are we going to have the script? You know, I'd rather see The Rock over at DC. I'd rather not see The Rock over at Marvel because he's probably going to bring that, you know, that whole jabroni thing over. He's better at DC. He's cool with me over at DC. But is there going to be a script? You know, and that goes into The Flash. They're rewriting if I'm not mistaken, not the whole movie, but the first page. Do I got that right, guys?
No, a page one rewrite actually means that they're starting back from page one. They scrapped everything they had up until that point.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. See, I'm learning something this morning. So a page one rewrite, everybody, means that they're scrapping everything. Like, you know what? This not working. We need to go watch a few more episodes of The Flash and see how they do it.
Right.
So what's your guys' take on this whole rewrite? Now that I'm learning what it really is.
Kevin, go ahead, buddy.
Okay, so with the Flash rewrite, let's talk about this movie for a second. And this is another in a long line of blunders that Warner Brothers / DC has made over there. Is that, do you know they've lost 3 directors to this film? Okay, mm-hmm. 3 directors have walked away from this movie. Okay, and at this point now they're saying after the 3rd director left, which is the director of the movie Dope that came out, I want to say last year or the tail end of 2015. Ryan Fukuhara, I think is his name. But anyway, his tweet was just saying, hey, what I wanted to put out and what they wanted to do were 2 different things, so I parted ways. Okay, that was the basis for his tweet. I'm paraphrasing there. What you have to look at is this. Stuff in the movie industry changes all the time. And I'm going to use Marvel as an example. I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, Marvel put out a slate, and they had Captain America, the Serpent Society, up there as what the Captain America movie was going to be instead of the Winter Soldier. I don't know if you guys remember that or not. That was Kevin Feige on stage with the Marvel timeline saying this is what this is going to be. And that same timeline also had the Inhumans on it, by the way. So stuff changes for everybody. However, it's not the fact that you change something. It's always the fact of how you release the information. Okay? So movie slates change, stuff changes. Look at Edgar Wright. He left Ant-Man. He had been attached to that project for 5 years. Okay? They went and got some other people, and they came in and they did what they had to do to make that movie. So stuff changes in Hollywood all the time. However, when you look at these rewrites that's going on with The Flash, look at how they're juggling the slate. At first they announced, right after Suicide Squad, hey, we can get a Deadshot movie and a Harley Quinn movie. Okay, now that's turned into we're going to do Gotham City Sirens. Okay, now we got The Rock, which they signed The Rock to be Black Adam. That was 3 years ago now. I hope we're coming up on 3 years, right? Now we're going to do a Shazam movie and a Black Adam movie. We got all this other crap going on. It is a army that does not have a general out there. They are just out there just doing whatever they can to try and stay relevant. I would tell you, it's another point to fix that ship is they need to sit down and figure out a plan and figure out what storyline they're building up to and how they're going to get there. Because right now, the possibilities just keep coming out. And Jeremy, you talked about Suicide Squad. You're right. They gave David Ayer 6 weeks to write that script and to get something out. If you had a plan, that script would have been given a proper time to breathe and come out. Just recently, I think it was 2 weeks ago, David Ayer put a tweet out saying if he had to do it all over again, he'd have made Joker the main villain of the movie. That's from the director now. That was given 6 weeks, and he put a swirly thing in the sky at the end of the movie. You know what I mean? So again, so again, you just have them trying to rush to the front to capitalize on what's going on. This is my biggest fear for them right now because we do have what could be 2 great DC movies coming out this year, and I'm pulling for them. I am. Wonder Woman should not be this important. And what I say that is Wonder Woman's a phenomenal character. She's one of the greatest comic book characters of all time. This movie shouldn't be as important to the DC universe as it is. Case in point. And I hate to keep doing this, but they're the only game in town. Let's go back and talk about Marvel for a minute. Marvel's 3rd movie, either Thor or Captain America. Let's just use either one of those interchangeable because those are origin stories or whatever. And both of them, Captain America was a period piece or whatever. So I compare Captain America to Wonder Woman because they're both period pieces. if the MCU, if the deciding factor was, can we survive or not, and that rests on the shoulders of a period piece superhero movie, the MCU would not be here.
That's a really good point.
Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman should have made this foundation very strong to where you can go back and the audience is like, hey, let's take it down a notch. Let's let them tell the Wonder Woman story so we can get used to her and then we can move on. Suicide Squad as well should have bridged that gap to say we got 3 solid films out. Now we can take a step back, let it breathe for a minute. Let's focus on this one character and we go forward. You can't do that now. If Wonder Woman is not a screaming, knockdown, drag out with critics, the audience, and the box office numbers, it is going to be considered a failure. I don't care if it makes $700 million. It's going to be a failure. That movie has to make so much money and do so much that it's not even fair. I feel bad for Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot because it's not fair to them. That's because now the DCEU rests on the shoulders of a Wonder Woman movie set in World War I. I wouldn't bet my house on that. I would not bet my house on that.
Unfortunately, I kind of got to agree with you on the fact it's an unfair expectation put on this one movie. And I do think that for other reasons, this is a really important film, and I hope it succeeds just because, females deserve to be able to see themselves on film and to be able to take the role as a lead in a superhero movie, and all of those things are positive.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, now it comes down to this, if it is a failure, like you said, it just is too many in a row. I do think the good thing about it being a period piece, kind of back to what you said, is we can focus on just Wonder Woman, but now it seems like we're sort of reverse engineering this whole concept of how, and I know it's the cardinal sin to compare it to Marvel, but that formula, it worked. And unfortunately, DC had to do something to differentiate themselves from Marvel Studios, so they took the other path. And I can respect that they wanted to try something different. DC and Warner Brothers are not hurting for talent. When you look at the Marvel slate, they don't have the Jason Momoas. I mean, Robert Downey Jr., he was a household name, but they don't have the Ben Afflecks. They don't have the David Ayers. They don't have all of these really high caliber people that are known well outside of the realm of comic book movies.
Right.
For example, Chris Evans, he wasn't a household name, but now he's Captain America to everybody, and I wonder why they don't just let these really talented filmmakers and these really talented casts just make the movies that they want to, because why put those names into something that they barely have any involvement with because it's all decided by a committee?
Yep.
So that's one of the things that has concerned me since the beginning. It's like DC, ever since they started, they've been hiring the big guns. The Rock is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, superstar in the world right now. So that's why they said, hey, we've got The Rock. And it seemed like a good move at the time, but when the project is 5 years down the line, it makes it hard to stay excited about something like that. So
exactly.
I kind of touching on what you said about fixing the DCEU or what they can do to course correct it, and I think that this sums up a lot of it, is just let your people make the movies that they want to make, that they set out to make.
Yep, I agree wholeheartedly.
And you made a valid point. Right now, The Rock is one of the hottest stars out. That man probably comes out, he's probably in 3 movies a year at the most. And don't forget, he has a show on HBO. And he has other things that then he's still doing WWE. So he is one of the hottest people out right now. And it's like, and like I said, they're like you said, they're pulling in these hot talented people, but they're just sitting on them. They're just sitting. Like you said, that movie doesn't come out until another 4 or 5 years from now. So are we supposed to just, if Wonder Woman bombs and The Flash bombs, are we still just supposed to be crossing our fingers and toes and teeth until Black Adam hits the theater? You know, and that's what it is. It's like every movie that comes out, it's like, okay, guys, I hope this one's good, because if it's not, we're going to have to do something else. You know, and it's like every single movie is like that with them. If this one doesn't do good, let's have hopes for the next one. And it's good to be optimistic, but it's not good to be blind. Okay, it's like, let's fix it from the beginning. Fix it when it's first coming into fruition. And I think that's the issue that's going on. It's like, why can't this be fixed? You know, why can't this be put into a good place? And like you both guys both said, you can't do a lot of things when you have a committee that you have to answer to all the time.
Yeah, you know, movies are made by committee, and when you get too many hands in the cookie jar, we all know what happens. But I do want to point out some good things about what they've done, because there is some good to this whole thing. First of all, outside of Disney, they have one of the best marketing arms I've ever seen with movies. And when they have a movie coming out, it is inescapable. You know who's in it, you know kind of what it's about, and you know when it's coming out. Think about the marketing campaigns for Batman versus Superman, and then think about Suicide Squad. I use, you know, they're two recent films here, you know, on the DC side of things. The marketing campaign and the trailers for those movies were phenomenal.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? They have a great marketing on. They know how to get butts and seats. Okay. They pick, and just like Jeremy just said, you know, they pick great people to do their movies. Great actors, great directors. Listen, I like Zack Snyder. I don't like Zack Snyder playing with Superman, but I like Zack Snyder. He's a great director. That guy knows how to shoot a film. He's not a great storyteller, in my opinion, but he's a great director. Okay. And some people say those are one and the same. I kind of tend to draw the line in the sand on that, but that's another topic. So you have the makings of what could be great, and that's why I think Warner Brothers is succeeding, because we talk about these films, and I think all of us have been maybe disappointed to a certain extent with one of these films or another in a certain way. But if you look at it, all of them have been very lucrative and very profitable. So at this point, we're not talking about being profitable or whatever. We're talking about how much profit and how you can serve the fans better and how you can tell better stories. You know, I think Jeremy made a good point earlier talking about Superman and Batman, both of them being dark and brooding or whatever. The one thing I'll give the credit for, to me, the best DC movie they put out so far is Man of Steel. I'm one of them people, one of the odd birds that love that movie, okay? But I see the flaws in that movie as well. And this is not a Man of Steel podcast, but I'm just going to give you one thread of how they got it wrong. Superman was raised on Earth by Ma and Pa Kent, okay? We all know that. That is nothing new. The philosophy of Ma and Pa Kent is what makes him Superman. It's not the powers. It's not the abilities. That philosophy, that Midwestern upbringing is what makes him Superman and see the world a certain way. You can't have Ma and Pa Kent continuously tell him he doesn't owe the world a damn thing. Save him or don't save him. That's deconstructing the character to a point to where we have a dark and brooding Superman. They killed Jimmy Olsen. You know, in the first few minutes of Batman versus Superman, which I think was the way they did Jimmy Olsen was completely crazy. You made Lois his only connection to humanity, and that's not the case. You got to remember, Superman/Clark Kent is an alien living here on Earth. He's a reporter. He's connected to people. Now, if you look at the ultimate cut of Batman versus Superman, you see Clark Kent out doing reporting and getting closer to the people and understanding what's going on. If you watch the Ultimate Edition, you can understand why he went and confronted Batman. He's talking to people who are telling him this guy's out of control. He's a vigilante. He needs to be stopped if you watch the Ultimate Cut. So he goes and he does that because he's there for the people. But you don't get that from that character. So Zack Snyder and the scriptwriters and all that, they kind of deconstructed Superman in a way that it's fine to deconstruct certain characters. Superman ain't one of them. You can play with a few things with Superman, but that's when people start to get pissed off. And I'm just using the Superman thread to say this. Since it was Zack Snyder and he did, both those movies, he followed that thread all the way. Superman is this is the most iffy Superman I've ever seen before. But that was his vision, and he followed it. The difference between DC and, again, Marvel, I guess we can use them again, is that nobody over at Marvel will let you do that. When you turn that script in over there, they're going to say, no. You can do this, this, and this, but you damn sure ain't killing Jimmy Olsen, and you're not going to deconstruct Superman to this point. That is the problem. And I got one more example. I know I'm getting long. I got one more example I want to tell you guys. I don't know if you guys saw this, and I think this is what happens over at DC all the time. When the director of Logan went to the heads at Fox over there and said, this is what we're going to do, I'm going to put X-23 in it, they didn't even know they owned the character. They had no clue. He told the executives, I'm putting X-23 in, and they were like, who is that? He had to explain to them who this character was that they paid for and that they owned the movie rights to. I think that's what happens over there. And I'll get it. These guys are executives. They're not comic book fans like us. But my point is, you can deconstruct Superman and kill Jimmy Olsen and make this movie dark when the people that are in charge don't understand the characters. And that's my next point is, get somebody in there who completely understands the universe and understands movies. Jeff Johns understands the universe. He's not a movie guy. So you need to get somebody in there that can look at the script and say, no, that's BS. We can't do that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. I echo, sorry about my dog. I totally agree with a lot of that. And it's an interesting point to look at the concept of them not understanding the character. And even bringing Fox into the equation, they've definitely had their fair share of failures. It's not exclusive to one studio, you know, like Marvel has consistently put out good films, but then you look at half of the X-Men movies suck, you know?
Yep.
So, I feel like the biggest problem with the Wolverine was that whole tacked on Silver Samurai thing that happened in this third act of the movie. Everything up to that was strong, and it did show that Mangold had an understanding of the character. But then again, the studio comes in with their notes and is like, hey, we're going to need to make this more comic booky or dumb it down for audiences or throw some big freaking blue beam in the sky at the end or whatever this is.
Right.
And I don't wonder if they just drop the budgets down on these DC properties and not make $250 million movies, that they could reap a little bit of the reward from that. And then to touch on the extended universe or the extended cuts of these movies, Kevin, you brought it up a little bit ago that, like, we have hopes that the next movie, the next version is going to be good. And I almost wonder if Warner Brothers has worked that into their marketing strategy at this point. Like, even if the movie sucks in the theaters, we're going to put out the Blu-ray with 15 extra minutes and people are going to buy it just because they want so bad to see these characters in the light that they deserve to be shown, you know?
That's a phenomenal point, man. I didn't think about that. That's phenomenal. Yeah, you might be right, dude. You might be right.
And I think that's the problem. I think that's the problem a lot of people were having. You know, they were putting out, you know, they put out the movie, then they put out the theatrical cut, and people, because they felt like they were robbed from Batman v Superman. A lot of people felt like they were robbed. So when they put out the theatrical cut, a lot of people were like, well, let me go ahead and buy this because I want to see if this will make the movie any better. I've yet to watch the theatrical cut. Only thing I've heard repeatedly was it just added to the movie and some of those parts should have been in the movie. And I'm like, but that still doesn't make the movie better. It still doesn't, you know, really change anything, you know, at the end of the day. And I think that at the end of the day, there just needs to be some type of consensus over there to figure out what can we do to make this better. First of all, let's slow down and stop announcing stuff, because we're announcing haphazard announcements. Because we're putting out announcements, but we really don't have a plan at the end of the day. And I think that's the main problem. That's like saying you're going to make hamburgers, but you don't have any ground beef at home. We're going to make hamburgers, you know, but it's like I said, it's a conundrum. But like I said, that's why I want to have a conversation, not necessarily about, just coming down on them, but to a point where we can really sit down and speculate and kind of conjugate on what can be done to make a difference. And I think what we all three have said in such a way is there needs to be a true leader. There needs to be a true leader over there to help pull something together. And I think that's really what's wrong with them at the end of the day. It's like Kevin always says, too many hands in the cookie jar, too many hands in the pot, and nothing will ever get accomplished. So I think that's the whole thing when it comes to DC. But you guys got any final? Go ahead.
I just to summarize this, I did want to say that rewriting a script, that could be a good thing. There's nothing negative about them deciding, hey, this script for Flash sucks. Let's start it over and make a better script. That's not a negative thing. It's just when the audience is expecting a movie to be released in 2019 and then all of a sudden it has to get pushed back because of production issues, it starts to change our preconceived ideas about it. It starts to change our expectations about what these movies are going to be. And I think that's the biggest flaw with the studio, and they could course correct by just keeping their information a little closer to the chest.
Most definitely. You guys got any final points on DC?
I'll make a few quick, brief final points. The one thing about this situation is that I don't want to make it, and neither does anybody on this call want to make it something the sky is falling. We're just reacting to the information as we always do. And we're speculating. We don't have any ties to Warner Brothers DC. We're just telling you as fans how we feel. And I'm speaking for myself on that because you guys may know somebody over there. I don't. But what I want to say is this. The only thing that can fix this is good movies. Put a win out there. You need a win. And just like Fox, you can be up and down. You can put out, one of the greatest superhero movies thus far in Deadpool and then, put up a brick with Apocalypse. And I'm talking about as far as in the critics' eyes and moviegoers' eyes. All they need to do is put out one good movie. If this year they put out a great Wonder Woman movie and a great Justice League movie, this conversation, this podcast will be null and void. Okay?
Absolutely.
But that's all they got to do is put out good stuff. So this situation is definitely redeemable, and it's one that can come back because we got to say this again. All these movies made money. Like these aren't slouch movies, by the way. They are polarizing, and they make you feel a certain type of way, and you kind of scratch your head a little bit. But, all three of us, we went and saw them. We put our money down to give them a shot. Yep. And I think all three of us are going to go give them our money for Wonder Woman and for Justice League. Hopefully in a couple of months, the three of us can get back on the call and revisit this conversation after Justice League comes out. And we can say, all right, y'all, we started the year off in February 1st. We started off and we said this, and then months down the road, we've seen these two DC movies, and this is where we fall out with the universe. But I think we all can agree that this thing is salvageable. It's not that I'm saying the Warner Bros. Need to cut ties and move on. They have great stuff. One other thing I want to point out, and I promise you guys I'll be quiet. DC, Warner Brothers has done some great things with their music over there, and I want to point this out because we talked about some of the good things they're doing. Wonder Woman has the most recognizable superhero theme of all the new movies. Yeah, when you hear that electric guitar, you know that's her, and I think that is phenomenal. Like, I mean, we know, and I'm excluding all the older films, so all these older scores from Batman and Superman, like I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the new guys. Put on Iron Man's music, and I probably just walk by it and wouldn't know what it was. The minute I hear that electric guitar, I know Wonder Woman's coming out with that sword. So again, this thing is salvageable. This thing is great, as far as what they could do. But what they will do, only time will tell.
Absolutely.
Most definitely, guys. But this has been an amazing conversation. It really was able to break down everything I wanted it to do. And, like I said, that father to son to DC, just make good movies. We want to see a good Wonder Woman. We want to see a good Justice League movie. We want to see a lot of other good movies. But just slow your pace, and just make good movies. But, guys, I do appreciate you guys for joining me today. Kevin, where can they find you at?
Just, on the Fandom Anonymous page. I'm on there commenting, and I'm just on Facebook, man. Kevin Garlington.
Most definitely. Jeremy, where can we find you at with Be Terrible Production?
You can actually check out Be Terrible Productions on Facebook. You can check out Be Terrible Movies on YouTube. And you can also check me out hosting the film festivals at Pensacola coming up, which I really look forward to seeing you out there, Malcolm.
Most definitely, man. I saw you hosting this Johnny Young Bosch panel. I don't think, what day is that? Is that Friday or Saturday?
I think it's Saturday.
Saturday. That's the day I'm going to be there. So hopefully I get a chance to come through after I get out of that JDF line, because I know it's going to be packed. I know it's going to
absolutely.
That line is going to be livid, and I will be there until the very last second, last drop. So, guys, most definitely, thank you for joining us today. This is Fandoms Anonymous. We're definitely coming up with more. Stay tuned to our YouTube channel. You're going to see our DC TV reviews coming up for the week. Today you'll see our Flash review, our Supergirl review, as well as our Legends review. Arrow comes on tonight, so we'll be reviewing that. That'll drop tomorrow. I'm also going to do I'm not reviewing Gotham, but I'm going to review the episode with Jerome, the Joker of Gotham. But just real quick, I don't know if any of you guys have caught that. What do you guys think about this Joker that they have on Gotham?
Man, I actually just watched a video this morning before we spoke where Jerome got his face punched off by Gordon, and it's got me intrigued. I want to check it out.
Most definitely. Kevin, you got a chance to check out Jerome?
I haven't seen the new one. I saw his first appearance and his first run, and I can tell you this. If they replace Jared Leto with this guy, I'd be supremely happy. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, and this episode, last week's episode, when they brought him back to life, and this week's episode where he's raging through the city, it's awesome. So we're going to review that as well. So guys, again, you can find us on Fandoms Anonymous on Facebook. You can find us at anonymous_fan, Fandoms17 on Twitter. You can find us Fandoms Anonymous on Instagram, and of course Fandoms Anonymous on YouTube as well. Thank you guys for joining us, and have a good one.
Peace.